Hi, everyone. Our guest today is 27-year-old pilot Ana Paula Céspedes. Originally from Paraguay, she flies a King Air F-90, C-90B, and a Cessna 210. She was also a beauty pageant queen in 2018. We chatted about the key personalities that you should have to become a pilot and what it's like to be both a beauty queen and a pilot, which is a mix you don't see every day. So hope you enjoy.
Thank you so much, Isabel. It's such an honor for me being here talking with you. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So I have a few questions for you. I am very excited for this conversation. And I just want to know, how did you get into flying? Was there something when you were a kid that signaled that might be the route you were going into? Or just like, how did you get into this world?
Yes, I've been asked a lot this question. And the thing is that my dad is also a pilot. And I remember that we used to go a lot with him, like to everywhere, some places. And once he took me into the cockpit and that was it. I saw that amazing world with, a lot of bottoms. And there was the co-pilot, and I said to myself, this is what I want to do. I hope that one day I can be here, like in charge of everything. And thank God I made it.
Yeah, I love that answer. In charge of everything. I like that. So obviously, if your dad is a pilot, he might have probably been very happy when you said that you wanted to be a pilot as well. But
yeah,
did you get resistance in any other ways? Was anybody not happy with that decision?
Thank God, no. I always had the support of my family, my friends. And, once I said in my high school that I wanted to become a pilot, and a teacher of mine said, "Are you crazy?" Now I remember that. She was like, "Are you crazy? Are you joking?" And I was like, "No, I'm not joking. I'm serious." And then a few years later, she used to say, "Okay," I asked her once if she wanted to become a pilot, and she said yes. And now she is already a pilot. And I went to one of her classes to show her my license. So it was pretty crazy. And that's what I always say to people, that never don't ever look down or be like, don't feel that you can't do anything because it's on you.
I agree with you. I actually also had a teacher when I said that I wanted to work at NASA in high school. And he was like, "Oh, you probably should pick something else. Like, what are you going to do with that? Like, what are you doing?" And, now obviously, as you say, that teacher is always like calling and being like, "Oh, here's a post about you and here's this and here's that." So I totally relate to that and agree with your sentiment of like, it's up to you if you do it or not. And the other person can just like live within like their limitations, right?
Of course, you put your own limitations. That's true.
Absolutely. And I have a question. So when you tell people, colloquially in the streets that you are a pilot, is there any type of reaction that you're used to getting? Or talk to us a little bit about that. Because I think when you're in the world of aviation, you get a little bit in a bubble, right? That you talk to pilots every day. This is like the world that you move around. But it's not as common to meet a pilot in general and then a female young pilot more specifically, like out and about.
Yeah, I know. Well, I am a pilot. I have been a pilot for 7 years now. And 7 years ago, it wasn't like this. Like nowadays, I think that you can get to meet a lot more pilots, female pilots. And at the beginning, it was like, "Are you a pilot? Really?" I don't know. I'm not sure, especially men, And I remember once I was at this airport in Brazil and I was doing my go around, And he was like, "Oh, I can help you if you want." And I was like, "I'm a pilot. It's okay. Are you a pilot? Really?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm a pilot. I can do it." But nowadays it's very different. It's like, "Oh, you're a pilot. Cool." It's like it has changed a little bit, but it's always that person, that one person that says, "Are you really a pilot?"
How does that yes feel? How does saying yes to that person feel?
Oh, it's amazing, I just love to say it.
To
It's
that
like, "What
one
do you do for
person.
a living?" And I'm like, "I'm a pilot."
I love that. I really love that. I feel you as well. I'm not a pilot yet, but again, there are certain things of my job that whenever I do say like, this is what I do or this is where I work, it definitely feels like a proud moment, right? It's definitely something that you should be proud of.
Do you want to become a pilot?
I do. I mean, more than anything, I want to have a training center and a flight school. So I feel like I definitely need to go down that route. So I'm in the early stages of getting my PPL,
That,
starting about that ground school and everything. So sorry, mom,
what?
but it's definitely happening at some point if I want
Best
to,
of
kind
luck.
of take the next step of where I want to go.
Wow, best of luck. You're gonna do great.
Thank you. No, and I'll, I have your number, so I'll like message you if anything.
Of
And if I have
course.
any questions, I have some friends that can help me out.
Yes, of course. Whenever you want.
Awesome. I'm so glad. This is exactly why I do this. No, I'm joking.
Okay.
So when I was reading about you and looking you up and just connecting with you, there was something that really surprised me. Was that the fact that you were a beauty queen in 2018, which
Yeah.
is, in my perspective, was just like total like polar worlds. Like in one extreme, you have this
Yeah.
technical, very male dominant world. And in the other one, you have this sort of what looks like a more superficial female dominant world. What has your experience been? And talk us a little bit about that in like both worlds.
Yeah, I always say this. It was like being Hannah Montana. You remember? Best of both worlds.
Love that. I love that comparison.
Yeah, because it was very different, but I love it because you have the aviation, where, as you said, is more female, and then you have the beauty pageant world. It was awesome for a while, but I got to understand that it's very hard to do both. So when I was in the beauty pageant thing, I had to stop flying for like 2 or 3 months because I went to Poland to represent my country. And it was an
Wow.
amazing experience. I learned a lot. I have fun. I made friends. But then I start missing a lot to fly, to be there in the cockpit, just me and myself. And, it was to being a pilot, of course, you have to like know a lot of things and be very calm. That's what I always say. And that's helped me a lot with the beauty pageant world because, they always say that it's a lot of drama and it's
Yes,
very
I was gonna ask
competitive.
you about that.
Yeah. But I think that I am not a person who like loves drama. I am very calm. So that's what I always say, that if you can maintain yourself in that way, everything's gonna go right.
Okay, fair enough. I like
Yeah.
that. I mean, as a person flying, I like my pilot having that perspective, no matter what industry they're in. Aside from it, do people, you think, underestimate you when in both sectors, right? When in the beauty pageant, when you say you're a pilot, and being a pilot when you say you're in the beauty pageant world, because I think that second one is pretty interesting as well in terms of reception.
Yeah, of course. But I think that you don't have to like put that first, whatever people think about you. You just have to commit yourself. Everything is about mindset, and just believe that you can do it no matter what, like criticism, for example, because you're going to get criticism, whatever. If like, is it a beauty pageant or it's aviation? It's not easy both ways. Like either ways,
I
it's
bet.
not easy. Yeah, but it's a completely different world because in aviation you have to be more, let's say, focused. Of course in beauty pageant too, but it's just you, the cockpit, your procedures, everything, and you have to be there all the time, like very focused in everything you're doing. And the beauty pageant world is different because everything
I bet.
shines and you have to be there wearing heels, and dresses, and you get to meet a lot of people, and it's, I don't know, flash everywhere. So I don't know, it's very different, but it's on you. I always say that you have to focus on you, on your, let's say, flight. If you like, let's talk about aviation. You have to be focused on whatever you're doing, you're learning, and always try to be better, not think what people are thinking of you or that.
That's really cool. And, are there skills, I think, that you've learned in aviation that you applied? And you talked a little bit about that, but just like specific skills that translate between, again, these two worlds that seem from the outside like they have nothing in common.
They have nothing in common, but they have a lot in common. I always say that to stay calm, because a mind that is calm think better than a mind that is not. And most of the times you need that. So that's the most important thing that I will say to everyone that wants to, of course, become a pilot, because there are going to be circumstances that you're going to have to prove that you deserve to be there by being calm, you know?
Wow. No, and I bet both ways, you need to kind of prove that you deserve to be there, both in the cockpit and when you're up on that stage. I bet that's like a very, kind of demanding place for that type of personality and that type of focus and that type of even like self-confidence that you need to be in those two scenarios.
Of course. And I just remember that when I was a beauty queen, like I got to get a lot of comments from people that I didn't know and from social media. And I was there alone, and I was with a lot of pressure and it got me, But then I start to stay calm a little bit, and I didn't answer none of them, but then I just focused on myself, and I thought it took me a lot to get here. It took me a lot to get here, and I have to be proud of myself, no matter what are people saying right now, because I'm representing my country. So I don't know. I think that self-confidence is the best thing that you can have, either if you're a beauty queen or a pilot,
Absolutely. And that's like something that I think applies to anything that you want to do, right? And for anybody. Like it starts with just having the belief that you can do it. And then once you achieve something, not letting your mind kind of sabotage it, right? And kind of telling you, oh, that imposter syndrome, right? Like coming in like, no, like I deserve to be here. I'm here because of this reason, whether it's because I'm flying and I'm prepared to fly, or whether I'm up in a stage because I put the work in and put the pieces together to be up in that stage.
Of course. Yes. I always say that everything happens for a reason.
That's a really cool mix. Are you still involved in the sort of beauty world, in the beauty pageant world?
Not really. I am in social media, just showing my day by day and stuff, but not beauty queen anymore. I love that part of my life, but it ended like 6 years ago.
Okay, nice. Yeah, I see you on social media. That's how I actually connected with you. And so I'm glad that you're putting that part in, because it definitely helps, like, one, increase visibility, increase also this concept of like, you don't only have to be like a certain type of person to become a pilot. You can be, you can have, your female aspect, and you can, like to dress up and like to put on makeup and all these things that involve the beauty world that don't usually translate into being, this like older, male pilot, I would say.
Yeah. That's true. I think that anyone can be whatever they want.
That's always. I love that message for this interview. And you touched a little bit about this, but I had to ask, which one has more drama? I know you're not into the drama, but there's some drama that's people like. Come on.
Okay, I think the beauty pageant has more drama.
Fair enough. I bet.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. Like, if you like it, just go with it. Just go with it.
Go for it. Oh my God, I can't believe. Yeah, I know aviation also has its like little hiccups here and there, but I can imagine, again, both worlds have their own thing. So now I want to take it a little bit into your training, and kind of like, what was your process when you were choosing a flight school? When you were like, okay, I want to become a pilot. How do I get from point A to point B?
I started to look for all these schools here in Paraguay. We don't have a lot of them, but at that time we had like 5, I guess. And I choose the one that is called CCAP because the owner of the flight school was like a friend of my dad's. He's a colleague. And he told me, okay, you're in good hands. Don't worry. You're going to learn how to fly. So I did that.
That's really cool.
And he's really good, I think that he did an amazing job. And I always say to people, do your research, because the flight school that you choose is very important for your path as a pilot,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you touch on something that's really important for flight school, right? Is the fact that you need to communicate confidence. You need to communicate, good quality. You need to communicate, safety procedures, and those sort of make up a person's decision to choosing a type of school, whether that is because you know the person or just like how the school itself shows up.
Of course. Yes. Because they're going to make you, and after that, you're going to keep on going. And I don't know, it's very important. Like the flight school you choose is everything. After that,
Completely agree
it's
with
on
you.
you. But the first things that you're going to learn is is the school fault.
The school fault. I like that one. I'll adopt that one. The school fault. It's like, oh, I don't know. They didn't teach me this.
Yeah.
And what licenses do you currently hold?
I have all of them. I have my private, my commercial, my IFR, my multi-engine for a few years now, and I love it. It's like the greatest achievement of my whole life. I always say that.
And how long was it when, you started studying versus like when you completed? Like, how long was that process?
Oh, it took me like 5 years because I was in the beauty pageant at that time too. So I did my private, and then I went to Poland and I stopped flying for a bit, and then I started building hours, and then I did my multi-engine, and then my IFR and commercial. So it was like 5 years. Yeah.
Well,
And also, that become a pilot is expensive too. So I had to work too.
yeah,
But I
absolutely.
made it. Yeah, I made it. And it was very cool, because with that time that I had, I think I earned experience, and that's very important as a pilot. So you can sit better in that aircraft, and then truly know what you're doing.
Well, I bet like standing in front of a stage in front of all these people, of course that builds character, that builds resilience, and just like self-confidence that translates into the cockpit. So if you see the trajectory, like Poland was just like one of those steps that like taught you and like prepared you to get to that final, kind of commercial aspect of aviation.
Yes, of course. And I don't regret anything. I'm very happy the way it happened.
I'm glad to hear that. And although, it's a long process and you were successful, at the end where you completed, sort of all the steps that you wanted and you're kind of living out your career now. Was there any point in that transition or that process where you feel like you failed? And like, what did you learn from that?
Yes, of course. I think we all do at one point. But the thing is that I always stayed focused on what I wanted to do. Like I always said to myself, if someone else could, you can do it also. And just to stay calm and practice a lot. Practice is everything in this path. And sometimes when things are not going the way that you thought it will, because of course, when you look at it, it seems easy. But when you have to do it, it's not that easy. So I was like, oh my God, I'm not getting it, it's quite complicated. And my dad helped me a lot too. He was like, you can do it. You're going to do it. Just keep going. Just keep practicing. And it happened. Eventually,
That's so cool.
I became a pilot. So that's what I want to say to everyone that is going through that right now. Just stay focused and just remember that if someone else could do it, you also can.
Again, focus. That's like the theme in this entire sort of conversation. And how was that feeling of like your first solo flight?
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. I always remember the thing that when you look at your side and there's no one there, you will never forget it.
That's that's the part that like gets me. That's like, I don't know if
you're gonna do great.
You're gonna do
great. Yeah, of
slightly
course.
terrified of that moment when I look to the side and there's nobody there other than yourself.
Yeah, I know, but just remember that we all were terrified.
That is a good, experience to have.
Yes, of course. And one day you're gonna say, that was me. I did that.
Okay, fair enough. Well, for myself and anybody listening, you know that, when you look to your side and there's nobody there on your first solo flight, I guess every pilot, even the ones that you jump in a commercial air flight with, had that moment. So that's important to keep in mind because sometimes you compare yourself, right? Like your step 1 with somebody's like step 1000, right? And like your first hour of flying by yourself versus somebody's, 2000, 3000 hours of flying.
Yes, that's true. And that is something that happens a lot. And I always say, just don't compare yourself. Don't look at the other, like, it's okay. Let them do whatever they're doing, but just focus on what you're doing because you have to do the best that you can, whatever you're doing now. Focus on the now and not on whatever that other person is doing,
You heard it, Ana Paula. Just focus and you can do anything you want. Just focus on yourself and you can just go ahead and do whatever you want.
Yeah.
I want to jump into a less serious stuff, right? Some more like girly stuff. And I feel like that's a good theme for this conversation.
Yeah.
What are in like your, in-flight must-have, something that you cannot go flying without?
You know what? I learned flying that the thing that you cannot miss is another pair of shoes, another pair of pants, and another pair of t-shirts. Because
Why?
Because we were on a flight one day and we were supposed to get back the same day, but that didn't happen. So you have to be ready always, no matter what. You have to be ready. And of course, your iPad, your logbook, your girly stuff. But I always say that you have to be prepared no matter what.
Have a toothbrush just in your pocket anytime you're flying. Just have it there. Do you have
your shampoo?
Any, aside from like packing the essentials, do you have any like pre-flight routines or like superstitions or anything that you like do before your flight that you have to do? I know some people like touch the airplane with one hand or do this or do that. Is there anything like that you think you do?
I do, actually. I talk to the airplane. I always, yes, I talk to, because I say that they have hearts, and souls, and they listen to the pilot. So I always go and say, "Oh, you're gonna do great today. We're gonna go flying. Everything's gonna go great."
Do you name them all, or is it just like a general talk?
No, it's a general talk. Okay. But I always talk to the airplane. Always.
Just nice things too, like focus.
Of course.
Focus and we'll be okay.
Yes. Focus, we're gonna do great. It's gonna be a great day flying.
I never heard that. That's so cool. I really like that.
Yeah, I was afraid of saying this at the beginning because I don't know. I know it's quite weird, but I don't know. I do it.
I don't think it's weird. I think that's what, what makes every pilot. I bet every pilot has something that they do that they find a little weird. And they're like, oh, I won't say that because then other people will think it's weird. And then everybody just does a weird thing. I bet yours is not even the weirdest. I bet there's like other people that do like other stuff. And I'll let you know once I become a pilot what I do. Okay. What type of things I adopt.
To know it. Yeah,
I'll adopt talking to the.
You're gonna remember about me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be like, no, Ana Paula speaks to the plane. So something she must be doing right. Just focus and speak to the plane. And I think you're good to go.
Of course. They listen.
And, you say something interesting, right? You're like, we thought we were arriving at this time, but, I ended up coming back like the day later. Or I know that aviation in general has this like very time demanding, very sort of sometimes unplanned circumstances that take you away from maybe your personal life or, the things that you do on a daily basis, your home and all these things. Like, how do you balance sort of that like personal life aspect? I know you're married. Like, how do you balance that versus like being a pilot? That's just like really time demanding, I bet.
Of course, that is a very interesting question. And you know what? I married a pilot, so I think that makes it easier.
Okay.
Because he really gets it, But of course, if sometimes when I'm flying, he's home, and when I'm home, he's flying. So it's on us. I think it depends on you, on your like soulmate. Let's say that you're with your soulmate to find that time to make it. Of course, some days are like not that easy as others, but I don't know. You always make it work. It doesn't matter if it's AM or PM or I don't know, midnight. But if you want it, you can do it no matter what.
That's really great, advice. And then also for me, it's something that like the first thing that goes out the window when I'm like traveling or something is like maybe like food and health and what I eat. Like I'll eat like whatever is passing by, like a chocolate or this or that. Whether when I'm home, I try. I love Nutella, so like I can't say that like I do it all the time, but like I try to be a little bit healthier. So like, how do you balance even that aspect of like, okay, I'm just gonna eat normal in these like crazy schedule?
Well, you get used to it. At the beginning, like I was very strict on my diet, but it was a mess, to be honest, because most of the times we go to places where you can't really choose, like, or if you're in a hurry, it's like or what do you have? Okay, a hamburger. Okay, let's go. So I try to balance doing exercise or something like that, just going for a walk, or just don't eat a lot, because sometimes it's quite impossible.
I bet. I was gonna ask, how do you manage that in a flight? Like, do you have any like close calls? Like you're like, oh, can't go to the restroom right now, but like I'm in this flight.
Yeah.
Like, what do you do then?
I take my snacks,
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And so I just want to, this has been really interesting, really cool, I think. And, for people coming up like myself, like other people, what type of resources do you recommend, people like reading into or following, or kind of like, even if you're just curious about the aviation world, you don't have to be already in it or anything, or just knowing that you want to be a pilot, like just in general, like what type of things out there do you recommend people to either consume in terms of media and things like that?
Well, the ATP helps a lot, but thank God now we have social media. So if you just go into it and you just write a pilot or female pilot or whatever, you're gonna get a lot of things. Nowadays is amazing that you can get to know a lot of aviation and meet a lot of people through social media. There's also a association for Latinos. I don't know if you've heard about them, Latino Pilots Association, which is pretty cool.
Just found out about them, actually.
They're awesome. They're awesome. I was a month ago on their expo, the second one, and it was amazing.
That's really cool to hear.
I think social media will be the best nowadays.
I agree with you. When I was really like, I wanted to work at NASA, I was just thinking about that. But, I was living in the Dominican Republic, and like, other than like the TV, right? I just followed everybody on Instagram. Like at that point, Instagram isn't what it was now, it was a little bit ago. But still, like, you had all these astronauts on Instagram, you had like the NASA Instagram and all these things, and you were able to kind of like understand a little bit about that world in like a different lens that is not just like what is being shown on the TV. And now it's even easier. Everybody has like, even astronauts have like TikTok and things like that. So even that's like really cool for me.
It's really cool for me too, because you feel like you know that person.
I agree.
That you're a friend. So,
I agree.
I love it.
And I love that. I love knowing like which pilots like went to this school and like what their day-to-day looked like. And then actually when I worked at NASA, I think the most fun I've had was going into the cafeteria and then like seeing pilots that like I either like saw on a launch or like had on Instagram and kept following their careers. So social media just gives you a different dimension. And it's also not that hard to keep up, right? Because you just have your phone on you all the time. So it's just you're already on Instagram, might as well learn something, or like TikTok or Twitter or whatever it is.
Yeah, I know. I think the same. Wow, that's super cool. I was at the NASA a month ago.
Oh, nice. Where did you go? To Johnson Space Center?
Yes.
That's a really
cool place. It was amazing. Yeah.
It's up in my like top 3.
Okay.
So I did my first internship there. So that's like where, all the astronauts live and things in Houston. It's like the iconic, Houston Center. So I love that place. Yes, it definitely has a special place in my heart. And just NASA in general. Really cool stuff.
Well, I can imagine. Wow. Congrats.
Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. And so, you talked a little bit about what you've done, how you got here. Like, what's next? What have you accomplished? Like, what's next for you?
Yeah, well, I always say that I want to keep on flying until I'm very, very old and build as many hours as I can, because I love it. For me, it's like passion, and flying makes me feel alive, But of course, I want to be a mom. I want to become a mom. So I think that will be next. I don't know when yet, but that's in the plans.
You'll have a little pilot just coming with you. And I think that's really cool. Once like I've seen, even like now a bit more in the aviation world, like how kids grow up. I guess you're a perfect example, right? You model that. And like for me, aviation is a scary thing. Like it still is. Like I'm an outsider that came into the world. It's still like this like scary thing. I cannot, lie to you. But I think once you grow into it, like if you see your dad being a pilot, like it's not crazy that you're a pilot as a mom, right?
That's true.
Yeah. It's like,
I think
we would just like pack up and go to the beach in our plane.
Yeah. And that happened to me when I was a little girl, that
That's
was
really
my
cool.
life. Yeah.
That's really cool that
It's
you
very
get to
different.
also pass that, pass that into your growing family, when you decide to do that.
Yeah, that's true. And it's very different because I remember from high school, I used to have friends that never got into a plane and they were so scared. And I was like, no, don't be scared. It's okay. I have been flying all my
Yeah.
life. You
I
know?
agree with you
Yeah,
on that
that's
one.
true. Yeah, yeah.
And so do you have like a favorite plane that you like to fly? I didn't ask that.
Yeah, I'm all vintage. I like the Stearman. I love it. Hopefully someday I get to fly one.
Fair
And
enough.
you, what about you?
I haven't flown yet, so I cannot answer that question. I will not answer. Yes, once I get a few hours in there and I lose that initial fear, I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
We're just wrapping this up now, but what's like the coolest thing you've like experienced being a pilot? It doesn't have to be one thing, just like in general. Like what has been just the coolest thing?
The coolest thing that I get to have as a pilot is to travel. And you know what? Two years ago, I went to the US and I took a Cessna 2110 from the US to Paraguay.
Wow.
We flew, yeah, we went with my dad, and it was amazing because we went from Tulsa to Fort Lauderdale, and from Fort Lauderdale, we crossed all the Caribbean Sea and then all the Amazonas down to Paraguay. So it was amazing.
Wow. How long
It
was
was
that trip?
10 days, and it was like 35 hours of flying in total. But
Wow.
it was
That's really
amazing.
cool.
Yeah, that was the best. I always say
Well,
that.
I hope you get to take, your child on a cool trip like that.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome. Hopefully one day.
Absolutely. How do you summarize like, your aviation career in like a few words, 3 words if you want, just in general? How do you summarize it?
The most amazing experience. Because for me, it's an experience always, and I never get tired of it. It's an amazing opportunity that I get to have every day of my life, and I'm so grateful for it.
That's awesome. And, just wrapping it up, where can we find you? I know you're on social media. Where can we find you?
Yeah, I'm Ana Paula Céspedes in every social media, like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So if you
Sweet.
want to follow, I would be
I'll post it. I don't know how this is gonna work yet, but I'll post it on somewhere in the link as well, so people can go and find you and see like your amazing career and keep up with you as well. Do you have any last piece of advice to people, that want to get into the world, that are new to the world, or just advice in general?
Yes, of course. Don't be afraid to follow your dreams because you are going to make it. You just have to stay focused and believe in yourself.
Stay focused. That's like the key takeaway here is stay focused and just don't compare yourself to anybody else.
Exactly. That's the most important part. Don't compare yourself to anybody.
Yeah. Ana Paula, this has been incredible. Thank you so, so much. Like as a fangirl, just like in general, like thank you so much. And yeah, we'll see, what's next with you and we'll keep up with you. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.